Good morning, guys. This is Act 2, Scene 3. And through the process of our research, we looked up topics that correlated to our scene. Topics include lying, body movement, guilt, treatment of women, and comedy and tragedy. And through the process of our research, we incorporated these strategies from our articles into the way we characterize our roles in the play. And so, yeah.
Okay, so I researched lying through body language, and the main idea is that people often have incentives to lie through tone, facial expressions, body language, and it affects Macbeth's communication and behaviors with other characters, and Macbeth also acts as if he doesn't know his own actions. So this correlates to Macbeth and the way he represents himself to conceal that he is lying about Duncan's body. And in my article, the author describes how body language and micro-expressions are extremely important in hiding the fact that Macbeth is lying about Duncan's body and he committed murder and treason.
Oh, so adding on to what you're saying, this guilt that he feels causes him to act in certain ways he's not aware of. So, for instance, in our play, expect that Macbeth has sudden outbursts. And also, moving on to what I researched how to detect deceptions. So it turns out when someone's lying, they tend to be fidgety. They want to hide it, but they can't because it's too much for them to bear. And they have short micro expressions that give off their feelings like anger. Like I said again, in our play, we're gonna have sudden outbursts like "Urgh." And so we also have lying to be correlated with heavy breathing because they're so nervous and anxious. And so we want Macbeth to be zoomed in at one point and just have him just exaggerate the effect. And also, he's feeling so guilty, but how would we incorporate this guilt into our play?
So for the guilt aspect, we talk about a lot of the having a broken identity and trying to repair it, and it kind of builds up with the burden of the guilt into their internal thoughts and feelings, and this really relates to Macbeth.
Yeah,
in the scene,
because he is showing how he wants to repair his identity when he gives this whole speech about Duncan's murder, how it's making him so upset, and how he had to kill the guards that were framed for his murder. So he's using that kind of to repair his identity
make
once
him look
again.
like the hero.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, they talk in this article. They talk about anxiety and building up the anxiety because only the perpetrator knows what he or she has done, and that relates to both Macbeth and Lady Macbeth because they're the only two that share that secret. And with the anxiety in the scene, we're probably going to be doing when Lennox talks about how the night has been unruly and we might have Macbeth sweating out of the muffled sound in the background and a heart pulsing or something like that, and maybe darting eyes. I guess.
Looking around because he's so nervous, being out of whack.
Yeah.
So how would this affect Lady Macbeth then? All this guilt and all this trauma happened.
In my article, the author talks about how in Shakespeare's plays, women were perceived to be really fragile and that they can't handle death of a loved one. So we can incorporate it in the video by having Macduff really exaggerate babying her and have Malcolm escort her out of the room. And then with Lady Macbeth, we can really exaggerate how she's pretending to be shocked when she says "woe alas," and then when Macduff is talking about you shouldn't look at the body, she rolls her eyes.
Yeah, I think Lady Macbeth can also create a diversion to distract the others from Macbeth after his speech about Duncan. And I think that would
Sudden outbursts cause guilt, so she should be oh, a diversion.
She's kind of protecting her husband in a way.
Yeah.
So with all this guilt, trauma and stuff, we also have the Porter scene in the beginning. How would we use the Porter scene from our research, how would we incorporate it?
Well, the Porter scene is perceived as a very comedic part in the whole play, and it would be kind of odd to have comedy in a really dark tragedy like this play. But Shakespeare intended this scene to be kind of a barrier between two really intense scenes. So right before the Porter scene, which is not in our scene, but before this, Duncan has just been murdered. It is intense in itself, and then after the Porter scene, everyone finds out about his murder. So those two very intense scenes are cushion. They have a cushion in between, which is this Porter scene, and kind of relaxes the audience a bit before the next part of the drama. And then also, the Porter scene is used as a way to communicate important ideas to the audience. So for example, the Porter thinks that he's the gatekeeper of hell, and he lets in these sinners. And these sinners and their sins perfectly correlate to Macbeth's sins as he's trying to become king. So this scene communicates those ideas of Macbeth's real character to the audience in a very discreet way. And along with the comedy, we could probably play up the drunk behavior of the Porter, because the humor is a little bit hard to understand. So probably just focus on the drunk behavior mostly.
Gotta keep in mind, I've never been drunk, so
Yeah,
it's just my
and
perception.
Carlos is the Porter, so I think the audience will laugh either way.
Yeah. So that pretty much sums it up, guys. It's been a difficult process. We hope you like it. Goodbye.
Here's a knocking indeed, if a man were porter of Hell Gate. Oh, turning the key. Knock, 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 who's there? I by the name of Beelzebub. Here's a farmer that hung himself expecting plenty. Oh, come in time, have napkins. Enough about you, here you'll sweat forward. Knock, knock, who's there? Oh, in the other devil's name, faith. Here's an equivocator that could swear in both. Oh, swear in both scales against either scale, who committed treason enough for God's word, yet could not equivocate to heaven. Oh, come in, equivocate, or knock, 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 who's there? Faith, here's an English tailor. Oh, here you may roast your goose. Oh, knock, knock, never at quiet, what are you? Oh, but this place is too cold for hell. I'll double porter in some time. Oh, I had thought to have let some of all professions not go to the premise, way to the everlasting bonfire. Anon, anon. I pray you remember the porter.
Was it so late, friend, ere that you went to bed, that you do lie so late?
Faith, sir, we were carousing till the second coke, and drink it is a great provoker of three things.
What three things does drink especially provoke?
Marry, sir, nose pointing, sleep, and urine. Literally, sir, it provokes and unprovokes. It provokes the desire, but it takes away the performance. Oh, therefore much drink may be said. Oh, it takes him off, it persuades him, and it disheartens him. It makes him stand to and not stand to. Oh, in conclusion, it equivocates him in a sleep night given to him, that blind leaves him.
I believe drink gave thee the lie last night.
That it did, sir. Oh, that very throat on me, but I required for his life, and I think being too strong for him, though we took up my legs some time, yet I made a shift to cast him.
Is thy master stirring? A knocking has awakened. Here he comes.
Good morning, noble sir.
Good morrow to you both.
Is the king stirring, worthy thane?
No, not yet.
He did command me to call timely on him. I've almost slipped the hour.
I shall take it to him.
I know 'tis a joyful trouble to you, but yet 'tis one.
Ah, the door, the physic we delight in. This is the door.
I'll make so bold to call, for 'tis my limited service.
Goes the king hence today?
He does. He did appoint so.
The night has been unruly where we lay. Our chimneys were blown down. And as they say, lamentings heard in the air, strange screams of death, and prophecies with accents terrible of dire combustion and confused events. New hatched to the woeful time, the obscure bird clamored the lifelong night.
'Twas a rough night.
Some say the earth was feverish and did shake.
Did so.
My young remembrance cannot parallel a fellow to it.
Oh, horror, horror, horror! Tongue nor heart cannot conceive or nor name thee.
What's the matter?
Confusion now hath made his masterpiece. Murder hath broke ope the Lord's anointed temple and stole thence the life of the building.
What is you say? The life?
Mean you his majesty?
Approach the chamber and destroy your sight with the new Gorgon. Do not bid me speak. See then and speak yourselves. Awake, awake, ring the alarm bell. Murder and treason. Everyone, Malcolm, awake. Shake off this downy sleep, death's counterfeit, and look on death itself. Up, up, and see the great doom's image. As from your graves, rise up and walk like sprites to countenance this horror. Ring the bell.
What's the business that such a hideous trophy caused upon you, the sleepers of the house?
Speak, speak. O gentle lady, 'tis for not for you to hear what I can speak. The repetition in a woman's ear would murder as it fell. Our royal master's murdered.
Whoa! Alas! What? An outhouse?
Had I but died an hour before this chance, I had lived a blessed time, for from this instant, there's nothing serious in mortality. All is but toys, renown and grace is dead. The wine of life is drawn, and the mirror is less. Is this left all to be of?
What is amiss?
You are and do not note. The spring, the head, the fountain of your blood is stopped. The very source of it is stopped.
Your royal father's murdered.
Oh, but by whom?
Those of his chamber, as it seemed, had done it. Their hands, faces were all badged with blood. So were their daggers, which unwiped we found upon their pillows. No man's life was to be trusted with them.
Oh, yet repent me of my fury. Then I did kill them.
Wherefore did you so?
Who can be wise? The maze temperate and furious. Loyal and neutral in a moment, no man. Outrun the poser. Reason here lied Duncan. His silver skin lays with his golden blood. And his gashed stabs look like a breach in nature. For ruin's wasteful entrance there, the murderers stepped in the colors of their trade, their daggers unmannerly breached with gore. Who could refrain that had a heart to love, and in that heart courage to make love's known?
Help me, heaven's heart.
Look to the lady.
No.
And when we have our naked frailties hid that suffer an exposure, let us meet and question this most bloody pace of work to know it further. Fears and scruples shake us. In the great hand of God I stand, and thence against the undivulged pretense I fight of treasonous malice.
So, let's briefly put on manly readiness and meet in the hall together.
Well contented.
Well content.
Before the porter see Duncan has just been murdered.
He did command me to cook. Oh, horror! Oh, horror! Murder had broke open the...